Yeah. Well,
At some
we had to
point.
do that. We had to do that with Matt's dad.
My mom's to the point where she's like, what are you gonna do about it?
Yeah.
She's right.
Then I just gave him an old set of keys. Like, it was bad.
For my dad, my brother disconnected his battery, so he couldn't take his car.
Alright, you're live.
Awesome. All right, I don't know where Dave is.
It is 7:02, we'll call the meeting to order. Everyone please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Hey Dave, how you feeling?
amendments to the agenda. I'd like to confirm March meetings. I can't make the 12th, so the minutes from January that Denise typed up said you talked about January 5th.
Mm-hmm.
I thought we talked about the week after, the 19th. And I know you responded to one of the field usage emails, Denise, that said it's gonna be the 20th of March, which is a Wednesday.
I think because somebody sent it.
It was me
Yeah,
that sent
yeah,
it, that said the
yeah,
20th, because
yeah.
I did not remember talking about the 5th,
Yeah,
so.
and I noticed that the 20th wasn't a Tuesday, but I thought maybe it was the only day we could get the room.
Oh, maybe that's what it was.
I don't
There
know.
was something about when voting is or something, or that was the,
What,
The 12th was the voting.
Yeah,
maybe, I don't
because
know.
I had Monique switch our meeting to the 20th, but if we need it another day earlier,
I think we just have to pick a date, because
Okay.
people are asking about field usage, which we're gonna talk about later. I can do before or after. The week you can't do it, I can't do either, but otherwise I'm free all the rest of the month.
I'll make it work.
is there a preference to do it the week of the 5th or the week of the 20th?
So I would just say if we were to get into a situation with field usage, that we needed a second meeting, or waiting till April, would that be too late to push it off?
Yeah, we can't push it.
Yeah,
So I would just say, based on the requests that are already coming in,
do it on the 5th.
I think we might need a second meeting, I don't know.
All right. I will check with Monique and see if we can add the 5th.
So we'll do the 5th and the 20th, or just the 5th?
Well, we need to do the 5th for field usage. That needs to be done ahead of time.
We might wanna do the 20th for reviewing applications or something.
Okay, we can keep both of them.
Are
Or
you
keep
okay
the
with
20th and add the 5th.
I think it's easier to cancel than to try to,
Yeah.
I think we have a lot for March between field usage and Chase Park.
Okay. And then, the minute taker position was posted. I haven't seen any applications for that yet, but I did have someone who reached out over the weekend and we directed them to the application that is online, so I don't know if it
Okay.
got sent in yet, but I think we're still having a problem with the PARC email address.
Yeah, we are definitely having trouble with that.
So I had added that to the agenda, that we need to talk about the email.
Okay.
I'm not getting emails. So no applicants, but the position was posted, one inquiry.
Yes.
I thought, that somebody from the school who does school board minutes.
She's the one who reached out.
Oh, good.
All these microphones are on, correct? Whether we're talking. When I have to do the minutes, sometimes the additional noise makes it hard to hear.
From the extra microphones?
I don't know if we want to shut them off when we're not talking, or what we want to do, or, I don't don't know, I'm just, it's just difficult to,
Well, no, they do come back on.
particularly
different.
people are sick and coughing and sneeze, it's just really hard to hear.
Yeah, they only turn off if you
If you-
hold it and
Yeah,
keep
they
your
only turn off
finger
if
on
you
it.
hold it.
Oh, all right, never mind then. I'll
Sorry.
work around it. Okay,
So for the email address, I think that has to be handled by Naomi.
Yeah.
so I
So-
think
has
that
worked
there,
on it, but-
I think there was confusion initially. Because I know I worked with her, 'cause she thought it was just my email. When I respond, when I try to send anything to Parks, it bounces back. Does it do? Dave, when you send to Parks, it does not?
I haven't tried it in a while.
It does to you too? Yeah.
It goes to me.
So there's definitely, and people in the community are trying to email us, and it's bouncing back. So we're getting no, particularly right now when we've got applicants and, I mean, this has been going on for 2 or 3 months.
So when are the applications due for Chase
We
Park?
haven't talked about that yet.
Okay.
So what is the next steps for getting the email fixed?
Where did you leave off with Naomi?
Naomi thought it was just mine because nobody else had indicated to her.
I did, I tried to,
I think you just did recently.
yeah.
And that's why I was asking, because I think she thinks yours is working.
No.
And I don't think she's heard from Dave. So I think we need to let her know none of ours is working. And I don't know if they need to delete it and start all over again, or why it stopped all of a sudden.
I don't know that the wherenh.gov one ever worked. Because we switched to that 10 months ago or so.
It's possible, but I can tell you, I only started having problems
Recently.
right after Christmas.
Yeah, that's about when I did too. Sometime in January.
Pam, I think it was 2 meetings ago, 1 or 2 meetings ago, you mentioned something about your email. And I think they made a change,
And then it went
and then it went
haywire. for-
haywire after that. So I'm happy to reach out to her
She's
again.
on vacation this week.
Is she?
Yeah, she's on vacation.
So
Do you want me to try to reach out to her next week, or do you want to do it?
if you want to reach out to her, that's good.
Given that some of this is pressing, like you were talking about, you could talk to Beth, because
Okay.
she can talk to the IT guy.
Okay.
So for the most part, we know, except for Dave, everybody's is not working. Okay.
I get all the park emails, but there haven't been very many. And I think I assumed you did too. Or is does the park reflector send to your wherenh.gov? That's probably why.
No, it needs to go to my personal, because I can't do park all at once.
Yeah.
So,
I think I think there's a couple people in the Parks group that has an nh.gov email that are getting them, and the rest of us are not.
Okay.
And I don't know if it's so much that we're not getting them. It's when
Trying to respond.
if we try to respond or send an email using PARC, it bounces back. It says, you are not authorized. I've sent the thing to Naomi, but it basically says, you are not authorized to send or respond. I'm putting it in plain English, but that Microsoft is saying you're not qualified to respond to this group message. So it has something to do with when they see anybody with a regular email responding to Parks, it bounces back as undeliverable, which I think is what's happening to the community. I don't know if you've tried to
gotten
send to
some.
Parks,
I have
Yes.
gotten some stuff from
and
community.
it hasn't bounced back,
No.
and you do it with your .gov.
Yes.
So that's when none of us have a .gov in that group, and it's bouncing it back.
So as a separate thing, so it needs to get fixed short term, but as a separate thing, I would like to see all the boards and committees and commissions have .gov email addresses so that
So would
there's
I.
better visibility into those. So the Board of Selectmen just got those last year. It was all personal email addresses for them as well before I started. And then I think ethics is either has them or is getting them, and conservation, I think, just got them as well. But if I remember that meeting, they are paying for it out of one of their budget line items, so.
So I think that one of the questions I would have is that if by being on a town committee or commission, our emails are, I don't know what word to use, discoverable, or somebody could request or whatever, I don't believe the town should be allowing anybody to use a personal email.
Yeah, I agree.
But I don't think they should be charging us to use it. I mean, maybe the Parks pays for it, I don't know, that's fine. But I don't think any of us should be using our personal email.
Yeah, no, and it would not be any individual person paying for it, but like out of,
Our
yeah,
commission.
yeah.
would
So
pay
I'm just
for it.
saying that's how conservation did it. I don't know
So should
if,
I ask Beth to look into?
yes. Yes, I think that's I'm not, I can't speak for everybody. I think that's the direction that the board wanted to go, and we've just been doing them kind of one at a time, see how it goes. So it maybe it's quick just to get them set up, and then that would fix both problems.
So I'll mention to her that it looks like everybody without a .gov, it's not working, in the possibility of getting us all on a .gov.
Yeah, and then it ends up
Is
being,
emailed you and got the error. Do you want me to screenshot it and send it to you?
I have it.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, because I get it every time, and I forwarded it to,
I'm about to say, I got one from PARC, and I don't know if last Wednesday was the last one I got.
it's
I
not,
was just looking
it's
for
not
them.
you getting it, it's you trying to send it to a PARC email. But anyways, I shared the screenshot with Naomi probably a month ago to send to the IT. They thought it was my GSI email, so I switched to AOL, and it still didn't work. And I switched to Gmail, and it still didn't work, so I don't think it's that. So, all right, I'll reach out.
Yep.
and-
well, and what I was saying a minute ago, I think it's $8 a month per person. It may be $5, but I think it's $8, so it ends up being about $100 a person.
Per month?
Per year?
No, per year.
Okay.
$8 per month,
Okay.
$8 per month.
per month, so
For everybody.
96 per person.
$8.
So it ends up roughly $100 per person per year. But,
Well,
Shouldn't the website,
$100 per person?
I'm sorry, per year. Yeah, I may have switched month and year on the last one, but $100 per person per year.
Okay.
so it's gonna cost us like $600 or $800 out of our tiny budget? Oof.
So that's why I say I don't know the best answer. Maybe there's,
Can we share one? Can we share one and sign our name when we respond?
Well, I think we have to,
Expensive.
first of all, we're already 2 months into the budget,
Yeah.
so it's not gonna be 12 months this year. And by the time we get it set up, I just think for our own protection,
Yeah. Yep, yeah.
and if we have to, look at a line item or adjust in the budget, I think we just have to.
Yeah.
Any other amendments to the agenda?
No.
Just we can do it at the end. I don't know if you want to do it at the end, but I just want to bring up one thing about us not speaking, Parks and Rec not speaking at the deliberative session. I'd just like to have that at the end of the meeting.
All right, public comment? You guys here for public comment?
I'm here mostly to observe. Tara Mann, Worthy Road.
So speaking of emails, I sent an email to Naomi to forward to you guys, because I was getting the undeliverable. Did you guys get it?
I did.
If not, that's kind of like, I wasn't sure.
I think I did.
Yeah, I got a couple from
I'm so sorry.
you. I don't know if they came through the park or how I ended up getting
I
them.
sent them to Naomi, and she'll figure out how to get them to you guys, even if I can't.
Unfortunately, it's okay.
So I just wanted to kind of touch base in public comment on some of the stuff that I learned. So I spoke to Brian Holtz, who's the Vice President of Conservation for SPNF, which is the Society for the Protection of New Hampshire Forests. They're a qualified land trust. And he's actually very familiar with the project. He was working with the Russell Foundation on 3 potential projects all along East Road, the Brown property, Bank Schmidt, and the Bolton property. And this was, Bank Schmidt was actually one of the lower priority projects. But so he's been in the loop for pretty much from the beginning, or close to the beginning. So he filled me in a little bit on the history. And so I feel like he's a neutral party. His whole life revolves around conservation. That's his focus in his life. And so I feel like he gave a pretty fair assessment of what he observed. And what he observed is that Naomi tried on multiple occasions to get the easements put on and get everything kind of done that needed to get done based on the warrant article. But the problem is that according to him, this was a Board of Selectmen project. This was never a conservation project. That's why the warrant article was put forth by the Board of Selectmen, not conservation. That's why it specifically said the Board of Selectmen was to convey the easements to a qualified land trust and not the Conservation Committee. And that's why I always thought it was weird, why didn't conservation speak if they didn't think what was in the warrant article was what was intended? And the reason why is it wasn't their warrant article, so it wasn't their intention. So that was his impression from the beginning. And so basically, the way he looked at it is there were 3 stakeholders. There was conservation with their interest, there was PARC with our interest, and then there was DPW with their interest. And what needed to happen is all 3 parties needed to come to some sort of compromise that met all of their needs, at least in some way. And that could never happen. And from what I gather, it sounds like DPW and PARC tried very hard to accommodate conservation's desire to have the hayfields stay in conservation. But what ended up kind of harpooning it at every turn was when they went to come up with a real-world practical application for putting in the fields, there's no real-world practical application. So there was somebody who was on a site walk early on that said, oh, I'll do a site plan for you. And he never did, and part of why is because when you go to do a site plan, you look at the site, and nobody would put their name to those plans. It would be ridiculous, the amount of time, effort, backfill, clearing, land moving, utility running. It just, no, and then in 2018, when I was on PARC, same thing, we were approached by community members because our available fields were just inadequate for the growth that our community was experiencing. And so we had Geo Insight come out, which is a conservation engineering firm. They did Bolton Park. So it's not like they're unfamiliar with how to put a field into a gravel pit, but they came out and they looked at that particular location and they just didn't feel that they would be doing right by us if they charged us to do a site plan because it really wasn't implementable. So I think that's where things fell apart, is that with conservation refusing to compromise or give, there was no harmony. And the land trust, part of their mission is to create positivity towards land conservation. They want people to be happy about it and like it. One of the last things they want to do is get involved in someone's controversy. If there's going to be negative press or hard feelings, they really will shy away from that. And understandably, they don't want to get caught in somebody else's fight. Lori Davis was running around telling everybody that we were going to get sued over the Bank Schmidt property. No one's gonna wanna be involved in that if there's a potential lawsuit. They just don't. And even take the lawsuit out, because of the lack of agreement between all parties, it was Brian's opinion. Basically, he wouldn't say, because he's very neutral, he wouldn't say we categorically won't, but he said you would be very low priority. We only have so many slots and so many resources, and you would be very low priority with the Bank Schmidt. And he felt that other land trusts would feel the same way. So I asked him, well, if that's the case, and we need to put it into a qualified land trust and nobody takes it, what do we do? And he said, well, you can't do anything. It just stays as town-owned land, and he felt that that in itself was conservation, and that those additional easements were an additional layer that wasn't necessarily necessary. And that was kind of how he felt things were going to play out. So, one other interesting thing is, conservation hasn't been quite honest with where their scope and powers lie and responsibilities. Conservation is by statute not allowed to own land. They can purchase on behalf of another party. They cannot own it. Only the owner of the land is allowed to place conservation easements on that land, so conservation is not able to put easements on anything. They can't hold an easement. They can't dictate an easement. They can't put limitations on any land. They're an advisory committee just like PARC. They are the exact same level as PARC. They are no more important. They are no more powerful. You are co-equal. And that's how it's meant to be. Both of you advise the Board of Selectmen, and the Board of Selectmen look at your advice, their advice, the needs of the community, how it's going to impact the community, and then they make a decision. But he made a statement that if he spends money, conservation spends money on land, that they have to control it. They can't control it. They statutorily cannot control land. So I just wanted to make sure that that was out there for public knowledge, because what they were saying was categorically false.
Super, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, so new members, we have Matt Beeler here, who is interested in joining PARC as a member.
Okay.
He has filled out his volunteer application. I know Matt through Scouts. He is current den leader. Cub master, so he's the head of the pack, and he'll be moving into the chairman position next year, next fall.
That's awesome. We do a
I'm
lot
sorry,
of work
I didn't
with-
catch your last name.
Beeler.
Can you,
Bieiler.
Eiler? Okay, thank you.
So you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so, like was said, I'm Cub Master for Pack 24. We're residents of Ware only about 3 or 4 years now. And we're shopping for homes. We wanted to come up here. We like the community. We like the feel of it, the family feel of it. And since we've been here, all the small town issues, but at the same time, the small town feeling. And that just made us want to be involved. Dug into Cub Scouts because I was Scouts my teenage years. Looking forward to moving to the troop level, and I'll probably be Cub Master at troop level or Scout Master at troop level in a few years. But when we did the project down at the field for the playground in the fall, seeing what kind of condition the playgrounds were in kind of made me pay a little bit more attention. We didn't have kids old enough in sports yet to see too much. I live near Purington. Purington Field looks decent most of the time when I drive by it. But I just want to get more involved after seeing kind of the condition and see what I can do to help out the town. So,
Super,
Thank you.
thank you.
thank you.
And Shelby O'Donnell,
Yep.
you know her, correct? Okay. I just wasn't sure if you knew her also.
Yeah, I wasn't sure, because you had said that you're supposed to attend 2 meetings before.
I don't,
I think it was one meeting, and then we make a recommendation
to
to
the
the
board,
board. of Selectmen.
okay.
Are you interested in joining?
Yes.
Join up. If you want to go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and your interest.
So, I don't know
It's on.
if it, okay. My name is Shelby O'Donnell, and I've lived in Ware for more than 20 years. I think it's like close to 25 now. I kind of lose track. But I was involved in coaching when my daughter was younger, and now that I'm an empty nester this year, I coached soccer in the fall and basketball in the winter. And I have enjoyed Chase Park for years, and I'm just at a point in my life where I have the time and capability to give back to the community. So that is why I'm here.
Super.
Thank you. And I know Shelby because her husband coached my daughter in basketball.
I coached.
I think your husband did too.
No, he does not play basketball.
Wrong one then. Okay, I was thinking of somebody else.
It was.
My daughter was on the team with your daughter.
Yeah.
So.
You made the shirt.
Yes, I
That
did.
was, yeah.
Your memory's better than.
It was Lydia's dad who coached with me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. There were two. There was another dad. There was a dad.
Yeah, there was a dad, just not my
Does the
husband.
board have any questions for Shelby or Matt?
Nope.
Any questions? So I can sign the recommendations and send them to the board of selectmen?
Yep.
Yeah.
And you guys, well, I'll just, but you guys, like, aware that we, for the most part, we meet once a month, but we do have a couple times a year where we'll do a cleanup day on a Saturday, or we might get together on a Saturday to decorate the gazebo at the holidays. So there's like an occasional, other than a
We try
Tuesday
to
night.
stop in on the employees or on Chase Park, like just to, everybody kind of tries to take a turn to stop in a couple times during the summer, just to make sure things are running smoothly. That kind of stuff. Sometimes if the police are called down to Chase Park, we try to make sure that there's a board member that gets there as soon as possible as well.
Salem, when is the next board of selectmen meeting?
This coming Monday, but
Okay,
it's scheduled already,
okay.
which would lead us to
Yes, the first Monday in March, which would be the fourth.
the 4th, yeah.
So we are going to give the board of selectmen recommendations, and then you'll be on the agenda for the March 4th meeting. And then they'll do your appointment, they'll have you take your oath, and we'll have your form for you to sign. And we meet at 6:30?
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah, usually Naomi will tell you,
okay.
like, maybe 7 will be better,
Okay.
if that is the case, but probably 6:30.
So that would make them available for the
The first meeting on the 10th.
5th, okay.
Yep.
And if that happens on the 4th, if I could get emails, then I can make sure they have minutes
Okay.
for the meeting on the 5th, yeah.
So there's only one vacancy, right?
I believe there's 2.
There's 2.
There was one, there had been one, and
It
then,
was, yeah.
and then Janine
Okay.
stepped down, so I believe there's 2 vacancies.
The website shows 1, but I think,
I thought the
It
website,
probably shows 1 because we never filled that one extra position, and it probably just
Didn't get updated from Janine.
fell off the wayside.
it was always my understanding that,
We were still
when
looking.
Janine was here, we had 1 vacancy, because we kept asking about
Yep.
somebody joining, and then Janine left, so that left 2.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
so, yeah, the website shows 1 vacancy. So, just need to get to the bottom of that.
If I'm gonna talk to Beth, would Beth know? Would Beth have whatever
It should be
historical?
2. It should be 2.
Just to clarify
I
that.
don't know if she'll know.
At one point, we had 6 people. When we first came in, it ended up being like 6 of us.
Yeah, I mean, we've had a vacancy forever.
Yeah.
And then Janine left, so that's two, so how it got dropped off the website.
Oh, yeah. They probably just didn't update it.
I'll ask Beth when I stop there,
Okay.
if she has any.
We would love to have both of you.
Yes. Alright, so at this point, if you guys wanna stay, you're welcome to stay.
I think they have to
I think they
stay
have
for
to
a
stay.
full. They have to stay for
a full meeting, yeah.
Alright, moving on, so minutes from January for the final, did everyone have a chance to review them? Yes.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to look through them.
I know it. I read them, but
Does anyone need the December minutes?
I'm sorry, just to go back.
Yep.
The reason they dropped Janine's name off, but never put her position.
Okay,
That's what the issue is. The vacant position 1 year has always been on there. They dropped Janine's name off, but didn't list it as a vacant.
okay,
That's why it's only showing one.
okay.
Her position should have been added to that.
Did anyone else need December's minutes?
No,
We
These were the-
approved December's minutes.
Yeah, but you used, these were the final, right? You said in your email that these were the finals?
To be posted on the website, because we approved them at the January meeting. We just only have to do the January.
So, the only other thing that we mentioned in the amendments was the March meetings. So we're gonna add March 5th.
To the minutes or to this, so to add March 5th to the January minutes?
Well, we have to
Oh.
correct the March 20th, should be March, wait,
We're
January
reviewing
20th.
January minutes, right?
yeah.
Versus what we said tonight we were gonna do. Because we said we were gonna add we're gonna do the 5th and the 20th.
So we're changing the field usage from the 20th to the 5th. We just need to make sure we let WAC know that we moved it forward.
Why did we do the 20th though?
It had something to do.
No, because it was voting. So we moved it back a week, but I think we should have been the 19th and not the 20th.
I think we couldn't do the 19th because of the room availability.
And I don't remember what I talked to Monique about changing the date to.
So if we stay on the topic of the meeting minutes, we talked about the 5th. We don't need to go back and change that, because we changed it tonight.
Right,
So as far as the minutes go, because right now we're on the approval of the
right,
January minutes, right?
Yeah.
Is there anything in the January minutes that
no,
need to be changed?
No?
no.
so there's a zoning meeting on the 5th at 7:30. So,
That's why they couldn't do the 5th.
you could always do the 20th and then the 27th if necessary.
I think that's what we're gonna have to do.
Or the 26th, go back to a Tuesday. So, yeah.
Wait,
the
let's
20th
approve
Sorry.
the January minutes, and then we can worry about changing the date for next month.
So I
So-
don't see anything else in the January minutes
Nope.
that needed to be corrected. Who wants to make a motion to accept the January minutes?
I make a motion to accept the January minutes.
I'll second them.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so now we have to come back to the meeting.
Yep.
So so the 5th isn't available?
No,
Yeah, there's a zoning meeting at 7:30. So the 20th is free, if you're not counting Fridays. Fridays are free. But, so I guess I'll say again, the 20th is free. There's nothing before the 20th except Fridays. So,
Is the 5th available if we use a
sure.
if we go upstairs, it's available.
I mean, I only ask because, I really prefer not to take the minutes that way, but I just worry with the field usage that we're gonna, hopefully we can get it all done in one night, but if we have more requests and we have capacity, then we're gonna have to figure stuff out. So, maybe we could stick with the 5th, but see if the upstairs room was available.
We can do that.
And we just need to make sure we change the date on the site. So, we also need to make sure, before we change it, that WAC can actually do it. So we need to reach out to WAC right away and see if Mike Provencher, and make sure that all of those bodies can be here.
Well, they're just gonna have, it's when we have a meeting.
It's, in JR football,
John Stark football.
yeah, she's been emailing us, so she has to be, but I think they're all waiting to hear from us.
Yep.
I get the sense that we set the date and they'll have somebody here.
Yeah.
That's how it's always been.
I think we set the date and email them, and unless they come back and say, we absolutely can't make it, can you change it? We have to set a date.
Well, and I don't think we change a date. I think that then they send this field request, and if they're not here to defend it, then we have an issue, because sometimes we have some of those little issues. But we don't always make up our minds on what.
Right.
That night anyway, we take the requests and then we try to sort it out.
It was March 21st last year, for what that's worth. Like, if we're trying to
Yeah.
meet a whole bunch of criteria, then the 20th would actually be on par with this past year.
I just say we leave it alone.
What was that, Dave?
I say we just leave it on the 20th, They're not gonna be using the fields for another month and a half after that anyway.
I think the trouble that we're having is that it's not just the field usage, it's also, we need to get moving on
Chase Park.
Chase Park.
Because usually we did a separate meeting for Chase Park.
We do, and that's why we need 2 meetings, but yeah, we could,
Because that's the other thing.
That's what we did last year.
I think that, I saw one email come through asking about when
Application.
applications are gonna be available. I just feel like we have a lot on our plate,
Yep.
and it's easier to cancel a meeting than to, if we just set out and said, let's stick with the 5th and the 20th, lock in the upstairs room for the 5th and this room for the 20th, then I think we could always, and then
yeah,
that would give us the 5th to talk about field usage, and if need be, the 20th to talk about Chase and applicants and how to start looking at that.
yeah.
Well, the only thing is with the, yeah, whatever, it's fine.
Okay. So we'll keep the March 5th meeting and the March 20th.
And you're gonna look at getting the rooms for, okay.
All right, so for facilities, did we want to, the skate park fence, I'm just gonna go with these out of order.
That's a major problem. And it's barreled over again. I don't know if anybody saw it.
It looks like the fence is popped, from what I could see.
Plowed into it again.
Are we talking Chase Park or?
Skateboard.
park?
Skateboard.
Sorry, I said I was switching.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was looking at something else.
Sorry.
All right, so we're
The
talking,
skate park, from what I could tell, I haven't gone and actually looked to see if the posts got knocked. It looks like the fence itself popped off, got popped
Yeah,
off,
they plowed into it again.
so,
The snowbank is plowed.
From the road, from the
Up in-
access road up.
yeah.
I don't even know if it's from the, isn't that down a little bit? I don't know. For some reason, they pushed a snowbank right into it again. It's the same, is it the same company as last year?
Yeah, firmly rooted, yep.
Did we ever get reimbursed for our repairs from that company or from the school last year?
I don't know.
Do you want me to email the principal at the school and ask him to, okay. So they would be the ones to talk with Firmin Limited about that.
I think we need to talk to them too, because it's our property, it's not the school property. But,
Yeah, but we don't hire them.
yeah.
I think that, here's what I would suggest that I'd like to see us do, because I felt like last year we went back and forth for a really long time. I think somebody needs to go and take pictures and say, okay, here's the damage, and send them to the principal.
Okay.
If he wants to put us in touch, I mean, if the plow company has concerns about location, whatever, but then I think we have to do a better job of submitting, getting a estimate over repairs, so once we know what the damage is, get the estimate for the repairs, and get it to the school, so we can work through this quicker than we did last year. Because I don't think any one of us even knows if we ever got reimbursed
No,
for what we
well,
put
no,
out for
because we
fence.
don't, yeah, I'd have to check with, I'm gonna set an alarm. I'll go take pictures.
If you want to if you do that and talk to the principal, when I go to speak with Beth about the email, I could ask her if she could look up and see if we ever got reimbursed from last year.
Yeah, that'd be great.
That, at least we would know. But I think we should have pictures, put a formal notification into the principal, and then get an estimate,
Yeah.
get it to him,
And
and,
do you have to work tomorrow night, unfortunately, so.
I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be done tomorrow night, but I just think we should do a better job this year of tracking it through the school and making sure we get reimbursed
Yeah.
for the repair.
I can do it on Thursday.
Take pictures?
Yep.
I'd appreciate it. So, like,
And I'll talk
Unfortunately,
with,
it's-
Hopefully it'll melt a little bit more and make it a little easier to see.
yeah, it was very apparent that it was the snowbank shoved against it that was the problem when I saw it.
and I'll speak with Beth about whether we got reimbursed last year.
All right, so, anything else about the skate park fence? All right, so for Chase Park, we need to set a date for applications to be available and be returned.
Are they still on the website?
I believe they are.
Because I thought we had an application. We had somebody inquiring about an application.
Yep.
So can we have them returned by, we had them returned by the end of March before, right? So can we ask for them to be returned faster
By
than that?
three-
By 3:20?
Lisa, where would they be on the
319.
website?
They were
Forms.
under,
So they're under the main forms section?
under the, yeah, it is forms, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
So we almost need to get a job posted for lifeguard, I assume lifeguard, gate attendant, and supervisor. We also need to figure out how many people we actually need to.
I think that we discussed the lifeguard thing last year, didn't we?
I don't think it's a priority.
It's not a priority, and it's hard for us to, we're having a hard time keeping up with, number one, we can't get them. And number two, it always seems to be an issue. And number three, we can't afford them.
So,
The application, the employment application is under the town administrator page when you go to forms.
so forms administrator?
No, go to forms on the left-hand side.
Yep.
Then scroll down to town administrator.
Employment application,
Yeah.
so that's what they would fill out.
Yeah.
So I think we would want to put something on our page that either links it back to there or just says go to forms under administrator.
We can have Beth put that up with the job posting
Okay.
from last year, 'cause it didn't change, right?
Nope.
Right.
So I'm sorry, Dave, you said we needed to do what? What are we doing?
The job posting for gate attendant and supervisors,
Assistant supervisor.
assistant supervisors. Right?
Yeah.
So is gate attendant abroad
Yes,
most of the,
Yes,
yeah.
and then it's assistant supervisor?
yes.
And then were we gonna talk, and then we're not sure what we're gonna do with lifeguards.
I think last year we decided we weren't going to make it a priority. If we have someone who applies for it, we can go from there, but
So the only thing that I think was a little bit of a wrench in that, if you go back to the
The D,
D
it
document,
needs to have it.
we have to make an attempt.
it specifies when. It doesn't say every day, but I think it says something like during
Like the summer months, holiday
holidays,
months.
yeah.
Okay.
So I think we have, and I have a copy of that if anybody needs it, but I think we have to make sure maybe look at that and make sure we're in line
Okay.
with what
Does
the
it say a
deed
certified
says.
lifeguard, or does it just say, it says attendance? I know it did say attendance, it's that the gate. I just can't remember, and but there was something about lifeguards in there, but I don't remember what it was.
I know I sent that one,
Yeah,
you had
I can
seen
pull it up if you can't.
I was
find
trying
it
to
quickly.
think about where I put it.
Yeah.
Because I got it, I think, a long, long time ago.
Yeah, you sent it to me October 18th. And it's not, I can see the email, but the picture's not loading. Oh, kind of.
You know what I'll do? I can try to send it back out to everybody. But I know it's pretty specific about when.
Yeah, I've got the scans, but it's not jumping out at me.
Here, hold on, I got it.
Oh, okay. So this was handwritten 1941. The town to keep a lifeguard on the premises Sundays, Saturdays, and holidays during the summer vacation period and at each other times as may be necessary.
So when, we really do need to say to our lifeguards, this is a weekend job.
Weekend and holidays.
Yep.
So I would assume holidays would mean Memorial Day, 4th of July, Labor Day. Those are the summer holidays, right?
All right. I know the one lifeguard won't be able to do Labor Day, but he'll be able to do the other, because he'll be back in school. He'll be back.
And yeah, I think one of the things we discussed at the time was how do you parse like the commas in this? Is it Sunday, Saturdays, and holidays for the whole time it's open, and then during the summer vacation period? But given that there is not a comma between holidays and during, so again, Sundays, Saturdays, and holidays during the summer vacation period, I think what we're talking about would hold
Yeah.
up to scrutiny. Yeah.
I mean, it's just not, we're in the same position a lot of other places are where we,
So I think
May
could
not be
we
able to
look at
get-
posting a lifeguard position for weekends and including the Memorial Day, 4th of July, and Labor Day weekend? and see what we get. It may be easier when, I know before, we had lifeguards sometimes during the week and other times not during the week. Because they had, maybe somebody would commit to a week, or two people would commit to
Weekend.
every other weekend. So if we could get two lifeguards that would commit to every other weekend, I think maybe that's how we could post it. But I think we have and then the question becomes, if we don't have anybody, then what do we do?
Yeah, is it allowed to be open if we can't find somebody for a weekend, or does that make us close the park?
I think your question before is a good one, like, does it have to be certified? The language of 1941, is it somebody sitting in the chair? What other laws have since come into existence that may also bind us? Can we put somebody in the chair that's not certified?
I don't think we could put somebody in the chair who's not certified.
So here's what I think we should do,
Yeah, probably does. I'm just talking. I don't know if it's a good idea.
No, but maybe,
I think-
maybe he's right. Maybe a lifeguard in 1941 meant,
I
something
think from a
different, yeah,
risk
it does.
mitigation perspective, why don't we throw the question out to Naomi, like when we had the the new feature, she has somebody who, whether it's town council or the insurance, to say, look, this is what the deed says, this is how we want to interpret it. Does it
Yeah.
have to be certified, doesn't, what's the liability for the town, what does town council or town
So-
insurance recommend?
Avatar is a good avenue, because I don't think they charge us anything for that feedback. And it may be let's follow up next month on if we need town council. Like, if you feel strongly about it, sure, let's go down that route, but maybe we can see what Avatar says
Let me,
first.
let me talk to Beth. If I'm gonna go down there, I might as well go through all the list of stuff with her, but I'll print out a copy of that document and see if she could just have Avatar look at it. And then if they recommend it go up to town, yeah. Is it?
Oh, yeah, sorry,
premise.
thank you.
Okay.
Like I
Thought
said,
so,
I'm,
but I
I'm,
figured-
I'm still driving down 93, I think.
All right, so we'll check with Primex then to see what their advice is.
Okay.
And that will include the question of if we weren't able, one, what would be the definition of lifeguard based on the date? And what would be our obligation if we were unable to hire somebody? Will be the two main questions I'll ask.
Hours of operation and fee schedule. Do we want to keep it the same as last year? I don't really think there are any changes, except for the actual dates because of where they fall.
we went over budget last year.
I thought we talked about reducing hours potentially.
I think we did too.
So we,
But I think what we also need to do is, definitely like Memorial Day weekend, that we're not, that we close at like 4 o'clock or something on the Monday of Memorial Day weekend, just because everybody has school, everybody's going back to school.
Yeah,
Having,
and
certain times where we can tweak hours here and there and go,
so I think regarding I think the fees, we shouldn't change. I think it got more people to come from out of town, but still didn't overwhelm us, so I would say we sit tight on the fees for another year. A big issue with the hours when we dissected them was overtime. We had a tremendous amount of overtime, and I think we have to, if we don't have a policy, we should have a policy in place that the overtime needs to be run through Lisa as the director, that we don't authorize any overtime unless it's run through Lisa, and then we can keep track of it.
And part of that issue
And
was that there was nobody there to fill in when there was needed, and I'm not allowed to do that anymore for some reason. So,
But we really looked at,
Yeah.
I agree that there was some
Yeah.
of that, but the supervisor put in a lot of overtime too.
Yes.
But we also had staff on, so I think we
Yeah.
just have to be
Reduce.
clear to all the employees that overtime has to be approved. I think that was a big piece of being over. I think the second piece was, we weren't seeing the numbers every month when we came to these meetings, so we didn't know. And I think we have to put that on, I would like to see it a standing agenda item for the summer. We look at the salaries, have as much up-to-date information, then I think we can make an adjustment to the hours later in the season. I mean, I think it's hard to cut back July and August when it's the hottest time of the year.
But we don't necessarily need to be open in October, especially if it's like a colder weekend.
And we could relook at, we can relook at when we open, what's our opening date and how long we stay open. But I think as far as making a major change to the hours, I think for July and August, we should try to keep it the same and manage it better. And then if we get towards August and we're running into trouble, then we might have to adjust. I think the other thing is if we end up with less lifeguard, that will be a savings too. So if we get a lifeguard just on the weekends and holidays, I believe we had,
Yeah.
that's an expense too, because that's a higher paid position, isn't it?
What I remember is lifeguard overtime was about a third of it, so it would help significantly.
Lifetime overtime?
Lifeguard overtime.
I don't think that
There
the
was no
lifeguards.
lifeguard overtime.
Didn't have any overtime.
I thought there was. It was like the third,
I don't think that
third, a
they
third.
ever worked that many hours.
Yeah, no, they, okay. I'm just trying to look real fast to see if they've, do we know when school starts next year?
No, they haven't said it yet. They won't put that until April, but it's usually the Wednesday before Labor Day.
So those 2 days before, like, the weekend before Labor Day is the last weekend that we're, or last time that we're open
So we were over.
during the weeks. And the Monday and the Tuesday, we're just not
82
open.
Hours, greater, so 682 hours more in 2023 than we had in 2022.
Was that hours that we were open or hours that we paid employees?
We paid out 682 more hours.
And I think when we talked about this, we said that
And then
we
we
really
paid-
need to reduce it to a supervisor.
And if we looked at 2021, it was 900 hours, so it was a little less, but, and then we looked at overtime in 2022. We had one individual who had overtime of 460 hours. That same individual had 647 hours of overtime last year. So it was almost 200 hours. And then we looked at the number of overtime hours times what the rate was. That alone was around $2,200.
I think we also added from 22 to 23, we added like 7 or 8 employees. We went from like 15 to 22.
I think that was between the overtime, and I have the time tracking sheet where we circled how many people we had on given days. There was a lot
Yeah.
compared to the volume and compared to the prior year. So I think what we have to really do is, one, by policy mandate overtime approval, and then look, what is going to be our achievable, how many people are we gonna have on?
Yeah, we talked about this, in the fall, and we talked about being very, much more careful with the shifts of having a supervisor and 2 employees on max.
Right.
So 3 people at the park at a time, max, not including a lifeguard. And that there would be times when we only would really need a supervisor, and so maybe when you're first, in the first couple of weeks, when there's a lot of people coming in and getting tickets or getting their car passes, and you really need to slow down and check that, we do need more people, plus we're training during that time. But then after that, we really don't, unless it's a holiday or a very busy hot weekend. And we could call, that's the other thing, if we know it's gonna be 95 degrees out, we could call in somebody and say, hey, we have some extra hours, because we're gonna need that extra. But other than that, we really don't need that many people there.
So the week of July 6th through August 24th was our peak hours, if you look at the tracking sheet. That's where we picked up 682 more hours than we had seen the year before, plus it was a rainy summer. So I think, in all fairness to everybody, if we control overtime and then set the standard, how many people we're gonna have during the week, how many people are gonna be there on the weekend, and stick to that. And if then there again, we're reducing the lifeguard, I would say that we don't fiddle with the hours too much right now and try to manage them month to month. So according to this, we started paying our Chase Park staff last year, the week of May 25th.
And that was Memorial Day.
And the scheduling was light until we got, the end of June, it picked up a little bit, and then the 1st of July, it really picked up. So I think we just, and maybe Lisa, I don't know, you could
Yeah.
help or talk with Kristen,
Yeah.
but
Yep.
what does a weekday look like, a normal staffing?
Yep.
What does a weekend look like? And then we could kind of run that through with what our salaries.
We
And then
definitely
that's what we should be managing to. And then I think we just need to make sure from, Beth, that we get these each month for our meetings that we can go over. Because then we could make a correction. We never got this last year till towards the end of August, and we couldn't make a correction. Because I think we were over by 5,000?
Yeah, we should have been known way before then.
I think we were over by 5,000 by the time we realized what was happening.
And then for the decals, do we know what colors we need to order?
I would do with what well, of course, it's kind of hard, because then, I know the cars this year are red, but having 2 red stickers may make it a little bit more difficult, so doing a different color.
I'll just, I'll talk to Kristen and we'll try to figure out the best color.
Okay.
Because I think we were orange this past year, right?
Yeah, we need to make a change though. And I need to, and we changed it so that we wouldn't, we were trying to save some money on those. Unfortunately, last year's stickers were too easily peeled off. So,
Yeah, we can't do
we gotta be careful.
we can't do the dump stickers, unfortunately.
Yeah, those
where
dump
they could-
stickers just come right off and you can put them on any vehicle and it's not, yeah,
So,
we can't do that anymore.
So for the sake of the minutes, we decided no change in fees,
Yeah,
and right now, no change in hours.
correct.
correct.
We're gonna have the due date for the applications the 20th
Of,
March.
is when they need to be into us?
Yes.
Or do you want it the 19th, so that we have them for our meeting on the 20th?
Oh, yeah. So the 19th. Sorry, thank you, Dave.
So part of the meeting on the 20th will have to be a closed session.
And Pam, you were gonna talk with somebody about that, putting that on the website, or was I? Yeah, okay.
And are you going to send a note out to the existing employees to find out how many of them would like to come back?
Yes.
So then the plan would be for the 20th to review applications. Review applications or actually do interviews?
No, review application.
Review applications, okay.
Anything else for Chase Park?
Oh, the Chase Park, the main gate is unlocked for ice fishing, but the boat ramp, just because of how the ice has been this year, is still locked. So
We were concerned.
we were concerned that somebody would go try to drive their car onto the ice and put their car through the ice.
I mean, it's really not safe out there. I've had reports, it's just really not.
Do we, is there something we have to do or should start doing right now about the boat ramp to connect with Jason? Was that?
That
did-
was
did-
Naomi was dealing with.
Did we
boat.
push it to the spring before the water comes back up?
I haven't heard that officially. Last thing we talked about was the fall, and then that kind of just disappeared. So, no. I don't think that's on anybody's radar.
So,
We need to get it back on somebody's
do,
radar.
again, if I'm gonna come down here, I can do that, or I could either email Jason directly and just ask him if he has it on his radar. Cause I think we keep missing the
Yeah, the time.
water being down.
Yeah.
Even if they were to pull the material back into that hole, so at least it's in the hole and not
Let me see if I can.
before, because they can get equipment down close, but I mean, obviously, once the water starts coming back up, then
Let me just see if we can at least find out if it's on somebody's radar. Because I don't know when to bring the water back up, but I'm guessing late April, early May. People are gonna wanna start putting their boat ramps back, their boat docks in and stuff. They take them out.
The boat ramp issue, last I knew, was kind of out of our hands.
Right, but I think all the permitting, all that stuff got taken care of, and I think with everything, if I recall, with everything that happened with DPW over the summer and everything, I think it just didn't get done. But I think we should at least just check into it.
And staffing has not improved, so,
And I don't
well,
know,
like, it's worth pushing on,
Right.
but
and I don't know enough about it to know, like, when they start posting the roads, I know sometimes they can't, there's not a lot they're doing road-wise, but is that
yeah,
the time they could work on the
It's-
lake? It's worth asking.
worth asking,
Yeah,
for sure.
so, at least if we ask and they can't get to it this year, at least we put it out there.
All right, anything else for facilities?
Yes, Denise, tennis courts, I was unable to get in, so there's no,
I meant to bring that key in, it's in my car.
okay,
Do you have the lock?
not with me.
Well, so right now that it's locked and nobody's gonna get in.
Yeah, I know, but there's no steel wool in the,
Oh, well, at this point,
I suppose,
we'll just have to
Well.
hope for the best.
yeah. Unless the steel wool that I put in last time is still there. Anyway,
And then when spring comes, we can just unlock it. So Lisa tried to get in and the lock's frozen, which I suspected it would be, because when I tried to reset it in the fall, I could barely turn it to reset it.
yeah,
So I have the master key.
I couldn't get in either side.
I would just say that we wait till spring and put the new one on
Yeah.
there
It's fine.
and just hold on to it. And when we schedule the opening. That way nobody can get in anyway, so,
Yeah. And we're not gonna weather a new one.
yeah.
That's fine.
Oh, I do have something on facilities. What are we doing about Inison and the pump? Because we've got to start looking at that because,
And the last time I left a message to try to get that, we had approved $2,000 to be used, they never got back to me.
thankfully, we had a lot of rain last year, which helped save that field, but if we don't get rain, that,
Yeah, we're gonna be in really big trouble and we're already short on fields. I mean, I think it's a top priority.
do
We
we,
will spend our entire budget.
well, I think what we need to do is look into wanting to get it written up and then put it to the Board of Selectmen to be able to pull the money from
From where?
our,
Yeah.
our
Revolving
account,
fund.
our
Yep.
float account or whatever we want to call that.
Well, so we never did get, correct me if I'm wrong, but we never got a solid answer from anybody with, here's the quote.
We can't. Nobody will do it because they don't know what they're really facing. But what it was, like $15,000
So
or
what's,
something?
but what's the cost to get a well company out there to pull the pump? To make the assessment? What do they have to do to make the assessment? Pull the pump?
They have to pull the pump up.
All right, so,
And and that's like $1,500 to have them pull the
I think
pump.
it was more than that.
But we approved that.
Yeah, we approved it, but then it was because we were gonna go with Kentucky, and Kentucky did not get back to me. So, about doing that. And I don't know whether it's just because it was late in the fall. I can try again.
I think that's our first step, is then let's get the pump pulled. If we have to pay the 1,500 or whatever it is to get it pulled, and then let them give us the quote as to what it's gonna cost.
Because it was Kentucky well up to $2,000 to diagnose and repair.
They
So,
never got back to you.
they didn't, but I think I was dealing with somebody in the office, and they were supposed to call somebody out. And there was one day that we were gonna go out, and then something happened, so. And this was last fall. I know because I have the same reminder sitting in my phone. So I can call them again, because they were the most reasonable out of anybody that,
And you, who did you say that was, Kentucky? So I think we just, if you could
I can reach out again.
reach out again, spring's coming, and just ask them how soon they could get out there. I mean, can they do it now? Can they pull the pump now? Do they have to wait till spring? I mean, we don't have that much snow on the ground.
There isn't a ton there, although it is still snowy on that.
I would just ask them.
Yeah.
The sooner we have the exact diagnosis and costs, then we can
Then we can act on it,
figure out
yeah.
where we go from there.
Yep.
All right, so you'll do that?
Sorry. Just
No, it's a
thought
good
that-
point. No,
that
it's a
we
very
need
good
to
point.
get-
I think of it like every time I drive by.
Get it at least going. I mean, it's
We have to.
it's getting warm. It's starting to get, I got,
We were lucky we didn't lose that field last
Yeah.
summer.
Anything else for facilities? So field usage meeting, we're gonna set for March 5th.
and we need to post that to the site. And
So
then-
are you gonna email?
And then you're gonna email
Mike, did you want-
Mike,
or
Pam?
Who's gonna email Mike?
I can email them.
Mike and,
Mike and the lady from the
it's Shelley,
generals.
isn't it? Her name's Shelley.
Yep.
I don't have her.
I do.
The only other one would be the generals themselves.
Actually, Shelley is the new person,
I don't have her.
but it's the general's email that you send it to. You don't, it's not her personal. And she actually sent us all an email, I believe, or maybe yeah, because we're all, we're all on the email, but it's jrgeneralsfootball@gmail.com.
Is it J, oh yeah,
It's-
JR Generals? Why?
Junior.
Junior Generals.
Right, but the email address is jrgeneralsfootball@gmail.com.
Got it.
And the new person is Shelley. She's the new president. And she's been emailing us.
So our meeting's gonna be March 5th.
Resolutions will be March 5th.
And then I don't know, should we be letting, didn't we have 2 forms come in from,
They were whack.
well, one was WAC and one was Where Christian Church? That just
Yeah.
got sent to us,
Yep, that's usually a softball
asking
field.
for adult softball, I think.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean-
usually in the, usually in the summer when WAC is pretty much,
No, I know, I just didn't
Done.
know if out of courty you let them know, or,
Yep.
but that would be
Do
one.
you have
we-
that printed out, Denise?
Yep,
They're in the box. The 3 requests are in the box.
Oh, yeah. they did.
can I also or make a suggestion that this year we set a date to do a walkthrough of the fields with the generals and We're Athletic? Because I think in past years, I feel like we sit here, they call us and they say, are they allowed on the fields? And we'll say, it seems too wet. And we're just going back and forth. Would it be better if we all got together and did a walkthrough of the fields and all agreed it's too wet, it's not wet enough, so that we're not, I don't know, I feel like that's been an area of
It is
contention.
gonna be a timing issue, because we could get on them, you know, it could be the April 1st and they could be soaking wet or still covered in snow and we wouldn't know. Or it could be
But
April
maybe,
1st and they're dry and then a week later they're soaked.
maybe if we do have people come to the meeting on the 5th, if Mike and Shelley were to be here, we could have a discussion with them about a possible,
Yeah.
how do we work together to determine when the fields are ready, so it doesn't feel like we're just shutting them
Yes.
down? Yet they recognize, you know, that we have to pay attention to whether it's gonna wreck the fields or not. So I would just like to put that on for the 5th, that maybe we look at.
maybe
Potentially-
we could also, on the field usage form, and maybe we could send it to them, when is their first game?
I think the issue
So
was
we
that,
know they get out to practice, but when is their actual first?
well, but the practice is the problem, because they wanted to be on it like the very first week in April for lacrosse, is that correct?
Yeah.
Usually.
And that's when and so they've been having to rent space because some of the fields are not ready.
All the more reason, I think, if they're here on the 5th, we get a sense of, okay, when are you hoping to get your first feet on the ground?
Yeah.
And then let's, a week before that, set a time on a Saturday or
So we can check.
just a quick drive to each field and take a look at it and
Yeah.
all agree whether it's a go or a no-go.
Mm-hmm.
Then at least they're seeing the same thing we are.
Yeah.
I mean, if March turns out to be like February, I mean, it's been pretty dry, not a lot of snow.
Yeah.
So, but anyways, I think
That's
we,
what we said last year when we
I know.
got 30 and
Yeah.
12, so let's not say that too loud.
Yeah. Denise had better knock on wood.
All right. Anything else for field usage?
Nope.
Financials. We had 2 bills. Lisa?
Yep, well, one of them is for the locks, which I ordered back in December, but because they didn't come until January, that was
do we have our budget?
No, I didn't ask for one. I apologize.
Okay, so the 1424, there's a 1424, which was for for Bolton, for the chain or cord that Matt and I went down and put on.
$14.24.
That's what it says.
Okay.
Thought that
And
was a
who's
weird
that
number.
from?
Country 3. And then we had $233.94 for new locks for fields. So we got the ones that are more weatherproof.
What's that number?
$233.94.
And that's Country 3?
Yep. So our total bill is $248.18.
And we had already made a motion to spend that money on the locks, right?
Mm-hmm.
We did. It was supposed to come out of last year's budget. It didn't because they would not bill me during December because they don't bill until it ships, and it didn't get here until January, unfortunately. So anyway, but yes, we had. And then the other one is a credit balance. So I'm looking at this, hold on, I need to. All right. We had 100. I'm sorry, I'm not really understanding this. It looks like we have total charges of $48.53 because there was a credit on this here, Denise. Why don't you take a look at that?
So we shut the internet down, right, for the winter?
I asked
We
for
did-
that to be discussed.
No, I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure
I thought it was done.
it was a done thing. I think I talked to Beth and Monique,
Yeah,
which may be why we got a credit.
that might be why.
So we still have a credit balance. It looks like we have a credit of $188
Left,
left.
yeah.
It looks like we had a balance of $285, and then we had payments received. They received, so it says payments received through February 2nd, $521, looks like a credit against that 285. Can I take this and talk to
Yes.
Beth tomorrow to find out if she
Absolutely, please.
knows?
Here, can you take the rest of it though? Thank you.
I suspect that maybe I don't know if we paid the internet and then dropped it. Let me,
You might
but
have-
it looks like right now our current charges was $48.53.
Yep.
That sounds about what my phone bill is.
Taken away, and we had a credit balance of $236.62. So now we have a credit balance of $188.09.
Do you mind if I look?
The question is what the $500,
Yeah. that's what I just want to make sure we're not.
if it's a
like
credit or
if
a
it had been
payment,
set up
if
in
we overpaid.
automatic payment.
Yeah.
And maybe we're automatically paying too much, but
Because we either had a big credit or we overpaid,
big credit.
because it's 500 and some odd dollars.
Paid twice in January. About 240 and about 290, and that's where the 521 came from.
So we paid twice in January?
Yep.
So the bill back then was 200 and something, and then it dropped to 48, so that must be
What
when the
time, does it
internet.
say when in January it paid?
Say again?
Does it say when in January?
On the
Why it was
5th and the
confusing.
19th,
So maybe
exactly 2 weeks apart.
we cut the check, and we cut the check at the end of December, and it just
Got
took,
there.
it took them a while to get it through their system and print it, so that was paying out of December money,
Beth will
money, but
know.
it,
I'll have her look at it. I'll have her look at it and I'll send out an email, but if the current charge is only $48, that says to me they did drop the internet. Yeah, it looks like we have the phone services. I don't see any internet services, but we have to decide whether we need them for the summer. Or,
If we don't have a if we don't have, yeah. If we don't, there isn't any need for internet services if we don't have
Credit card.
a credit card machine. And that was, or a way to take payment that way, and, well, there is a safety issue. But we had some issues with the phone last year, with the actual phone, which is why I think all of this ended up happening this way. And unfortunately, there's.
I'll
really
go
some-
over I'll take this with me when I see Beth. And I'll go over everything, but it looks like we only had a calling plan service for the month of January, no internet. And then I'll find out why we made 2 payments.
And when we came up with the budget last year, we took the telephone line from 600 to 1751, 1753, which was based on our 2023 expenses of 1751, it's roughly $140 a month. And so those 2 January payments are both higher than that.
Yeah. All right, I'll check with, I'll run this, I'll ask her what she. Does she pay these automatically, Lisa, or do you submit them to her for payment?
I sign off.
Okay,
But she pays-
I mean, I don't think we owe anything, but
No, I think we did.
I'll leave them with her.
Yes.
Okay.
Reaching out for financials.
So can we, and I'm happy to ask her tomorrow, could we ask Beth to email us,
The budget.
like, a few days before our meeting?
I've added it to my
Okay.
list, so when I do the agendas, when I send the agendas out to be posted, I will ask that she provide us with copies of the updated budget through that month.
And I guess to kind of tie into that and going backwards a little bit, we had approved the money for the pump, but that was last year's money, right? That was not January.
No, I think we were,
No,
I
it's-
think the plan was always to use the revolving account,
Fund.
Yeah.
But,
because we just don't have the mon,
Yeah.
it would take our entire maintenance line for the year and it'd
right,
be done.
but we approved $2,000. So
Right, but I think-
what I'm getting at is, we approved that out of last year's money. I think if that's what we want to pursue, we should do it again this year. And I think it would come out of the repair line and then get reimbursed. Just because if somebody's coming out and doing work,
I think we just have to ask, from my understanding of how the account works, we just have to,
Didn't we ask?
we have to ask to basically say to the Board of Selectmen, the overall bill we're projecting could be anywhere between 7 and,
yeah, and the only money that came out of there last year was for the gate repair, was to reimburse for the gate repair.
right.
So I just don't want to get stuck, like if that's the assumption, but somebody comes out and does work, they need to get paid, but we need to have money for them.
Yeah,
It's at least early enough in the year that we can pay them out of the bottom line and then reimburse it. I don't think
So
anybody on the rest
are
of the board
you
would.
suggesting
problem
that we
with that.
just make a new motion?
I would just, let me pull this right back out. I think the repair line is enough, because we're talking $2,000, if that number's not changing. And just to avoid going back and forth for another month on this, to say, go ask the selectmen if they'll do this, and then we can, I'm looking for, yeah, the park repair line, well, I guess we don't know for sure, but it will default at 3,000. So I would recommend making a motion to approve up to $2,000 spend out of the repair line 596, and then follow that up with an ask, if the money gets spent, because maybe nobody responds, but if the money gets spent, then follow it up with an ask to reimburse out of the revolving fund.
As long as we can do that, that's fine.
If it were the whole amount, then I would say, don't call anybody, go make the ask, and say, can we get this money set aside to spend on this? But I'm hoping that, you know, we don't jam it up for another month.
So I'm happy to make a motion that we spend up to $2,000 from the Parks Repair Fund, line item 596, for the diagnosis of the Inison Field pump.
And what we did last time was we said, if they said, oh yeah, this is a quick fix, it's, you know, $100.
Yeah.
So that's why we did diagnosis and repair last time.
Diagnose and repair?
Yeah.
And then,
How much was the amount for Denise?
Up to I think what we did before was up to 2,000.
To do.
What month was that in? Does anybody know?
September, October,
Yeah,
I'm guessing.
that's what I thought it was. I thought it was October.
yeah, and then, if the motion last time was for a specific company, I'd suggest not doing that, because we're not hitting anything in the purchasing policy yet. And that's as soon as you get to 2501. So I would, I would leave it open-ended and try and get somebody.
So again, I'll just change it to read, I make a motion to spend up to $2,000 out of the parks repair line item, not 596, for the diagnosis and repair. So again, not to exceed $2,000 for diagnosis and repair of the Inison Field pump. No vendor.
Could I amend that to just say potential repair? Because it may not happen, it may just be a diagnosis.
What if I reword it to say, make a motion to, hire someone to diagnose and potentially repair the Inison Field pump, not to exceed for those two services, $2,000, to be taken out of the parks repair line item 596.
Sorry, I know I keep adding a little more to well, let's authorize one person, the director.
Okay. And I'm authorizing her to,
So, yeah, like, make a motion to authorize the director to spend up to $2,000 out of the repair line 596, whatever.
so, I'll restate it then. Authorize the director to spend up to $2,000 for the diagnosis and potential repair for the Inison Field pump, to be taken from line item 596, park repairs. That cover it?
Second.
You seconded, Salem?
And
I don't
he's,
think
he can't second it.
So, yeah, we've gone around and
I
around
don't
on
think
this.
and I don't think I can second it,
I'll second it, it's fine.
because
Well-
you're asking for something for me to do.
You seconded, Denise. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. And then Lisa's going to make the call.
Mhm.
So, like, would this be the right time, since we just did a motion, to clarify? Are you a voting member, not voting member? Can you make a motion? Can you second a motion? I think we've been going back and forth on this, correct? And I think you
I was
raised,
told-
I think you
yeah.
raised a concern at another public meeting that you did have, you thought you did.
I don't
just
know
want
that we've ever
clar-
gone back and forth. What I was told day one was you were a non-voting member, and I was like, okay, cool. But then, reading a whole bunch of minutes, that did not seem to be the case in the past, and then
That
there,
was the case with the last ex officio, definitely. And then the one prior to that did not vote either.
but there's nothing that actually imposes that limit. It seemed to be a personal decision.
So can, just for clarification, because I mean, I never really asked, like, some committees have ex officios and some don't. So do you have a sense of what the boards, like, do they assign one to everyone? Or do people pick and choose? I mean, and what's the actual purpose, if you will? Is it guidance? Is it,
I think
because you have an interest in the Parks and Rec? Were you the newbie on the block and,
So I volunteered because I had interest, using the playground and Chase Park and whatnot. And my understanding coming into the meeting, my very first meeting, was, ex officio, meaning of the office. So you are not appointed, you just get a seat because of a different seat, in this case, being a selectman.
Right.
I just automatically get put on here by the selectman. But at that point, being a full member was my understanding. And I was told no. I was like, okay, I'm not gonna
I
fight
think
about it.
the last ex officio said that he was like there for kind of helping to advise, but also, I think for, ethical reasons, he said that he was not a voting member because ethically then you could have weight on both and that would not be appropriate. That was
so,
it was an ethical thing to not have that voting.
I mean, I think it's a
Well-
great time to talk about it because we've got potential new members and, this is like, I'm the newest amongst these guys. I always thought that having a Board of Selectmen here was for advice, guidance, to be able to run something by a board member, and also the communication back. Is that how you see the role, or is that even not part of the,
I mean, I sure think that's part of it, and
It was also
Certainly
to take the
do that.
wishes from this board back to the Board of Selectmen, so if we're not there, that they would have an understanding of this is what Park talked about, and this is how they're feeling, or these are the questions they have.
so that kind of clarifies the role, so then the question is, do we need to address the voting, non-voting, make a motion, not make a motion? I mean, how do you
I
feel
think
about it?
I think it's a deeper, not problem's too strong a word, but there doesn't seem to have ever been like a charter.
Yep.
Parks and Rec commissions are, they are somewhat statutory. I would say, this is my opinion, it's not like a legal opinion. So there is some stuff defined that if a town chooses to have one, then, this is how they can be structured, for instance. These are some of the authority and obligations they can have. But every other ex officio is voting. And the RSAs that, the reason I went in this statutory direction. It doesn't specifically say whether or not the ex officio member is voting, but in RSAs, I believe the planning board one specifically says this will be an equal voting member. So it's not clear, but I think it would be kind of strange to treat one differently.
So what boards and commissions
Yeah, right now,
currently have ex officios on them?
park, planning, and then Sherry's in like a weird,
Yeah, but you can't call her, she's a member.
yeah, that's still not very clear to me.
Yeah.
I think it's been
There's
poorly
also
defined.
Mildred Hall. Or not Mildred Hall,
Stone,
Stone.
Yeah,
Stone
the
Contest.
twice a year.
On all the others, they are voting members by charter?
I believe by planning, I believe planning, yes. And then it's,
It's that whole, like, having that extra weight, that extra finger on the scale of,
So-
like, it was an ethical reason, that was the way John put it.
Yeah.
Was that it wasn't ethical for a Board of Selectmen member to have voting here and there. That was how, when John talked to us about it,
Yeah.
but I don't remember all of the.
I mean, he rendered his opinion. He'd be like, oh, I would do it, or.
Yeah, he would render his opinion.
He would say,
and we
yeah,
would
go
have a
for it.
conversation about it, but he would never vote.
That's
he
how
was-
he always
yeah.
did it, but, I mean, if that's how other boards are doing it, then, whatever.
So is
And-
this a issue that each of the boards and commissions through their charters make the decision? Or is this something where the Board of Selectmen would say, when we place ex officios on a board or commission,
Right, so
they
that-
will or won't be?
that's where like planning, I believe, and again, we should double check it, but I believe planning, the state, the RSA says this is a voting member. The RSAs do not define a Parks and Rec Commission as well as they do, like a planning board, what have you. So it kind of leaves it up to the town in that case. But that's where I don't think the town ever really did define. That's where I think the deeper, and that's where I was starting to go. And like, I don't think it's a problem, but it's the best word I can come up with. The deeper problem is, like, Parks and Rec doesn't have like a written charter on this is how it shall be structured. This is the number of members. Started talking about that earlier.
Parks and Rec was actually never ever voted on in all of the research that I've done, all of the annual reports that I've read through, all of the minutes that I've read through, going back to 1941. There was a Chase Park Committee, and then all of a sudden Park and Rec evolved in like the late 80s, but there was never a town vote on it. So we have no
But does-
bylaws.
But
we-
does there have to be a town vote? Or does there have to be just a direction of the Board of
There's nothing
Selectmen?
that ever, there's nothing that we can find that ever created a Park and Rec committee or commission.
Because you had raised several months ago that over the winter, we would look at our,
Bylaws.
No, I raised that we would
Policies
look
and-
at those, the Chase Park Committee rules that I found in the
Oh, yeah.
research back in, like, from the 80s. Because we had always talked about having bylaws, but other than that, no one can tell us how Park and Rec actually became anything in this town. So there's no charter, there's no designation of structure, there's no designation of members, there's nothing about what terms they're supposed to have,
and so why were you looking at that?
because that's what I was asked to do
Well, and I think
By-
that Janine was trying
by
to
the
get
town
that.
clerk,
And why was she asking?
because she was doing research and training me to do my job.
And Janine was trying to get us to get bylaws, we just haven't had the time to do it.
So now I'm really confused. Do we report to the town clerk or do we report to the Board of Selectmen?
We report to the Board of Selectmen.
Okay. So would our next step be to create charter policy and procedures?
I would think that we would have to do something, but I don't know what direction to take.
I would go to the RSAs and see what is defined, because that's, that's,
When you say, meaning, what's defined for Parks and Rec?
right, again, there's something there, I don't have it with me. I have read it before. Like if a town chooses to set up and they don't even call it Parks and Rec Commission, but something like I don't know, I'm gonna use something that, I know this is wrong too, but like athletic commission, something like that. Then here are some rules that would bind the town. So I think that's the starting point.
And then we would craft those and then forward them on to the Board of Selectmen? I mean, I would
I
think
think
the
that's
Board of
a fine
Selectmen
path.
you would assume that they would want
Like,
to
and
review and
I'm
sign
hemming and
off.
hawing, because like the last thing I want to do is look like I'm coming in and like smashing the place up. I don't like that nothing's written down, and I don't want to so I think that's a fine path to say, here's what we think, and and that the RSA may say governing body versus legislative body, so maybe it has to go to a town vote, I don't know, again, we should check.
Town, so whether the RSA says town, so Pam,
What establishes it?
I think it gets really sticky when there's the same people on two different boards voting on the same things, and maybe not necessarily representing the feelings of the overall board. And I think that was when John was here, he was very careful to be very separate from that. And he said it was an ethical thing. That was an he was definitely.
I do disagree with that, and that's not how any of the other boards, committees, commissions operate.
Yeah,
so.
no, I'm just saying
Well,
historically, since I've been on the
Sure.
board.
I think that's why, I brought up the question because I think it's time to clarify it. I don't have an opinion either way. I
Can
think
I-
it just needs to be,
Can I ask a question? You were on Parks and Rec before I was, Tara. Do you? Yeah. Was there a time when there was? I mean, I just don't know. I don't know the answer to the question. I only know since
I'm
I've
trying
been
to
here.
think, when I first came on, I think Leary was the ex officio, and I think John Osborne, and then John, is it Vandersloot, or?
Yeah, and that was when I was here. Was when John when John and John were here,
Yeah,
and
I
neither
think
of them voted.
part of the big decision-making was, what benefit does it benefit parks to have the ex officio voting here and voting there? If he stays true to his commitment to park, then he would take their will and bring it to the Board of Selectmen. But if he doesn't like how park votes, he can just say, well, the heck with you, I'm gonna, even though park may have voted for one thing, he's gonna go to the Board of Selectmen and vote another, and it created, like you said, an ethical dilemma where it looks like he's trying to put a finger on the scale, and he didn't want that to even be, he didn't want an appearance of an impropriety. And that's really big in ethics. It's not just a straight up, this is a statute you clearly violated, but it's also conducting yourself in a manner that leaves you open to questioning. And I think they felt it was better that you guys know what you're doing, your community members, that there wasn't a need for him to step in and usurp any of that power. It didn't add anything to the board. It didn't add anything to the town. It just created this ethical gray area where some people could say, I really don't like that. It gives me a sour feeling in my stomach. Especially if there is a discrepancy where the board speaks this way and then he goes that way and he's voting members of both. It seems ethically undesirable. But it's
trying
a
to wrap my
personal
head around
preference
it.
thing.
I guess I'm trying to wrap my head around it because John had specifically said that ethically that wasn't right. So, but I do know, there was a time when maybe we were not aware of some things that we could have been aware of under that same person. So,
but I think it goes back to sort of
sorry, thank you.
thanks, Tara, the original question of if we had a charter, if we had guiding principles, policies, procedures, the things that most other boards and commissions have, then it would be addressed in there. It could be addressed, we can make a recommendation, but again, I look at it and say, it always has felt like we go back to the Board of Selectmen for guidance in, what is their wish and desire. When they place somebody, I think for a very long time, there's been that position on the board. So when did the research start for the history of this committee? A couple months ago, a couple weeks ago?
October, November.
So, and
It wasn't just for this, I was going through all of the minutes because I had to make sure that all of the boards, because the town clerk keeps all of the minutes for the board, so I was updating the books to make sure that all the minutes were there.
So I guess Salem, in your role, what I see as guide for us as a board member. If we were to find not a lot of instructive advice under the RSA, like a more broad, is there a downside to putting together a mission statement, a charter, whatever you call it, and then passing that along to the board so that we begin to establish that?
I think it'd be great.
Do you see any issue with that? I mean, I know you can't speak for the board,
Right.
but
I
do
mean,
you?
again, I would start with RSAs and build from there, and then, the closest analogy I can come up with is we had folks coming together, wanted to do an energy committee. And we just ran it by legal and got some feedback, so I could see the same thing happening.
And so then, if we had questions like, what is the role of the ex officio on the board, on this commission, we could push that back to the Board of Selectmen for advice, couldn't we?
Sure.
I mean, I would think.
I
And-
guess, I
and
don't know.
I
guess
want-
I'm
I want to
confused.
add, I want to add one thing, because, the thing we're talking around is like, there are certain people not thrilled with me, because
It's not, this isn't personal.
no,
just
that's
so you know.
fine. So I thought when I started, and I guess I wasn't really sure how it was done, but I have been of the mind, and I was going to propose when the new board starts, making sure everybody rotates. So I'm at least going to ask if somebody else wants to do park, and I was going to ask to do planning, but we'll see what happens. So I just want to make you all aware of what I want. I want to be in a position of having spent time in different areas by the end of my third year, so I have a better understanding.
So I raised the question just now, only because you seconded the vote,
Yeah.
and then it was quickly said you can't. So I only bring it up because we need to get, I mean, if other ex officios on the committees can second votes and vote on it, then I think we should be consistent. And I think what's been the problem is we don't have it in writing. We don't have a charter, we don't have a mission statement. And even if you step down and go to planning and somebody else comes on to this commission, we're gonna still have the same issue.
Yep.
If we don't get it
No,
clarified.
I'd love to have it all written down
So I'm only bringing
and
it up.
post it on the website.
I'm only bringing it up because of what just happened with us being unsure of whether you can second a vote or not.
Yep.
I think we just need to get clarification, whether it's you that's here or some other board member, it's gonna continue to come up.
Yep.
I agree that I think it would be great to have select board members rotate. I think the problem that we had was we couldn't get an ex officio in the past to show up. So having select board members rotate is a great idea, but my thought was that the whole purpose of a select board member being here was to then bring to the select board the needs and desires of the commission. So whether or not they agreed, and I know John did that before, like, okay, I don't agree with that, but I'm gonna go let the select board know that this is how.
Well, I
how
mean,
you
I
vote.
think that's where if we had, and, I mean, we could even look at the other boards and commissions in town and see what they have for charters and mission statements, and at least try to be in line. I guess I'm looking to you only for, do
Yeah.
you see a downside to that?
No. I don't think it'll be a quick process, so like, there will be we know for sure there'll be new members of PARC being appointed. There may be a new ex officio. So I would just make sure that whoever is continuing on, keeps the ball rolling with it.
Even if it were to take us 6 months to do it, I think it's gotta get done at some point.
It's 8:56.
And I've always wondered why it was supposed to be non-voting. It always seems strange to me that it was the only one that wasn't, but there has never been a vote on Park that I would have disagreed with. So I never needed to push it.
Well,
I was about to say something similar to what you just said, that I don't think there's ever been the thing that we pretty much haven't unanimously voted
I just
to
think,
do. If we
yeah.
don't, we go back and talk about it more and go, okay, why do you feel that way? So pretty much it's always been a kind of almost a unanimous, we're gonna spend money on
Yeah, I mean,
X.
once in a while, we do excuse ourselves from a vote for one reason or another, but that's because of ethical.
I just think that in all my career, in any other time I've been on, I think back in the day I was on the finance committee, there's always been some kind of mission statement or charter or guide. So whenever there is a question, when we get a new person, we get new people, everybody, we're all working off the same. Because I think what we're seeing right now is it's just been well, this one did, this one didn't. There's no real guidance. And I would like to see Parks and Rec in a line. Why would we be any different than any other up the where committees and commissions unless the RSA ruled us to be?
Yep.
So if most of the ex officios are voting and that's consistent across the board, then whether you stay or somebody else comes, it would just be consistent.
Yep.
I'm happy to take a shot at looking at the RSA and see, and just bring that back to the next meeting. Whatever we can find off the state, and then we could go from there. But you had originally, Pam, talked about us reviewing policies and procedures, correct?
From what I found in the Cheese Park Committee information. I can put that into a document, we can create something from that.
Okay. I mean, unless everybody doesn't feel that we should have,
No, we need to.
No, we do need to.
Anything else?
Nope.
well, I had just wanted to, and again, I'm not trying to open any wounds or anything, but I do want to say that I think we have to have a better approach next year going into the deliberative session if there are warrant articles that impact Parks and Rec, because there were several people who asked, why is somebody not here at the deliberative session speaking for Parks and Rec needs? Not addressing their support or not support for any warrant article, but what are the needs? Because there was conversation about warrant articles. And I think, I felt like, I think both Lisa and I felt like, you know, we were there, but we were told not to speak on behalf of Parks and Rec. And at one point, the question was blatantly asked, is there anybody here who could speak to what needs they have? And I think neither one of us felt like we could speak up. And I think I would just like to be sure that either we have the chair or the vice chair, or somebody, if in the future there are
Somebody appointed, I mean, if a chair or vice chair can't make it, then somebody needs to be able to read a statement or say something.
or just to be able to speak, I think either one of us could have spoken to what our needs are. That, you know we have field use needs, and we're gonna see that, I think, at next month's meeting. I don't know, I think they were raising the question because nobody was addressing what the needs are from a field perspective. So it's my 2 cents, but next year I'd like to be able to see if there were ever, again, to be something that impacted us, that we could at least speak towards our needs. Because I'm concerned about this coming sports season.
And just to clarify, in my response to your question, I did not say that you could not speak. I said, in my opinion, we shouldn't speak. It didn't say that you couldn't. And you guys stood up and talked. I wasn't there, I haven't watched it, so It was not, don't speak, it was, I don't think we should, but it was, I don't think we should.
Yeah, and I
wasn't
spoke,
telling you,
I really did speak only as.
I think we spoke on behalf of ourselves and made that clear. But when the question was asked, is there anybody here from Parks?
We couldn't stand up.
We felt like we didn't have the authority to say, I'm happy to get up and talk about what our needs are. So I guess I think it's just clarification that we just watch the agendas in the future and make sure if there is something that we could at least, either that or have something available in writing that what our needs are.
If I may, real quick. Just all the questions that have come up today, the fact that you brought up that we do not have a charter concerns me a little bit. I've never been part of an organization that did not have some sort of charter. That's not y'all's fault. Historical, there hasn't been one. Almost all these questions and concerns that we've had tonight can all be addressed by a charter. They can all be addressed by a charter, and none of this would be up in the air. It would be straight up, what did we say, this is what we're gonna do?
Right.
And then we can go back and go, okay, we didn't answer this question then. So now we can answer that question and put it in and go from there. I just think that,
And I think even the charter or whatever we call it would address who speaks at public meetings, who
Yes.
can designate, and really clarifying too, I think everybody's role, the role of the chair, the role
Yes.
of the vice chair, the role of the director, the role of the ex officio, and then the role of the other members. I agree with you. I think, I only raised it tonight because I think there is some confusion, and it just struck me when somebody seconds a motion and we have to say, you can't.
yeah, exactly.
How do
And
we know that?
I felt that was the right time to bring it up, and
Right.
that obviously, got us into this whole conversation. But yeah, that was a perfect example of why
Yeah.
Right.
that needs to be in place.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
Yeah, no, we know. We know that we've got work to do.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Now you fully know
Okay.
what you're getting
Yeah.
into.
I also think, there were other official statements at the, town deliberative session. And I think that it would behoove the board, if next year leading up to the deliberative session, there were one or more official statements voted on at the meeting leading up. Because then whoever was available could,
Right,
actually read the statement that the board voted on.
right.
Yeah, and
That's a
we,
great
and we
idea.
didn't do, yeah, that was why I think we didn't feel comfortable saying this is how the board's feeling, even though we knew how the board was feeling, we didn't feel
Well,
comfortable
and I
saying
think,
it.
I think in all fairness to Pam, that, we had never talked here about any of the warrant articles that may have had impact to us and how we felt about it. It was more when the question came up, why isn't there anybody here, or is there somebody here who can speak to their needs? They weren't asking us, and I agree with what you said completely, but.
Maybe it needs to be on the
Right.
agenda
Right.
for warrant articles to be
We-
discussed at the
I
prior
think
meeting and then.
I think maybe you're saying it better than I did, that next year we should be looking at the warrant prior to the deliberative session and asking the question, is there any information they're gonna need from us to
And-
help support
yes.
the understanding of any given,
Yeah, and what is our official
right,
statement
right,
on that warrant
right,
article?
right.
And
Yeah,
then
and
we
I-
can stand,
right, right,
people can give opinions as individuals, and then they can say, this is the opinion, and
right.
read it
right.
of the
So I,
committee.
I think we just learned a lot, and I agree with you, that next year, and that's, the only reason I brought it up was just to say, hey, let's look at how we approach it differently next year. And I don't care whether we support an article or not, it's just that if we should be able to at least say, here's our needs, or here's what we're struggling with.
Thank you.
No?
All right, meeting is adjourned, no, I make a motion to adjourn the meeting at 9:07 PM.
Seconded.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Who seconded it, Lisa?
I did.
All right, we are adjourned. Don't turn that off.
Don't
gonna
turn
do
it
it? You got it, Pam?
Yep.
I just want to make sure you understand, I didn't bring